The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A fiercest serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul.
Battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
We're doing young big dick Caesar.
Not old shriveled up dick Caesar?
No. Although, does your dick get bigger when you become a dictator? The gall of me.
Man, this is fun. Shout out to my friend Eric Brucha, because for Halloween one year, he tied a potato and like dangled it from his like wiener, and he was a dictator.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So brave.
Yeah, dude.
That is actually pretty brave. I don't know if I'd do that. I know I
I
wouldn't.
mean, it
do that. I
wasn't
don't know if-
actually tied to his wang dang,
Sure.
but it appeared as though it was. But dictator, yeah, pretty funny. Good job, Eric. You're funny.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battle Buddies.
Welcome.
It's good to be here. We're going back. I gotta say, it feels good. Kevin's kind of steering the wheel on this one. I'm just gonna sit back and be the person who has no idea what's going on. And I gotta say, it feels good to go back into ancient times.
Yeah,
Feels good for real. Like I mean that truly.
it really does. And I'm even going low tech, mainly because I've been writing the
Look at
script
this.
down while I'm at work during
He's
lunch.
got like he wrote things down.
So I wrote it with a pen and a pencil, and that was fun.
What are we covering today, dude?
Yeah, we're going to cover... Wait, let me read it in Latin. The Commentarii de Bello Gallicum, which is, of course, Caesar's Gallic War.
I love it.
Oh, wait, I
absolutely
forgot to
love
grab
it.
the book. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Also, my headphones. Lovely.
Are you? What?
My new headphones.
Oh, nice.
They're really
dude.
nice.
Did you just get that for your birthday?
Yes, say that.
Let's say that. Yeah, Kevin just recently had a birthday, listeners. So if you're listening, make sure to shout happy birthday as loud as you can, especially if you're in a working environment and people don't know that you're listening to a podcast. That will warrant some good vibrations. Good vibrations. I don't know why, but the Beach Boys, the harmony of the Beach Boys, obviously, this is going to be controversial, but the harmony of the Beach Boys kind of gives me anxiety. And I didn't know why until I watched the movie. It's the dramatization of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, and it turns out he had like schizophrenia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was not okay.
No.
But Pet Sounds is the best recorded album of all time.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have you heard all the... How did they get...
No, it's a good album.
How did they get all those vocal harmonies to not bleed into
So,
each other? How are
okay.
they all individual? I don't fucking get it
Did
at
you
all.
watch Love and Mercy?
Mm.
The dramatization?
No.
So there's a part where he's going over harmonies.
They do
Brian,
some wacky ass harmonies.
well, yeah, everyone who like studies musical theory and producers were like, "Hey, bro, this is like not correct. You're not supposed to do these harmonies." And so, interestingly enough, like I obviously like to listen to the Beach Boys, and it's got a good vibe, good vibrations.
Nice.
But I did as a kid like not really understand while listening to it. It did make me slightly uneasy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you feel that too?
Yeah. That's what makes it so... But then, like, God only knows, like, that song is fucking...
It's a really good song.
As a kid, you're like, oh, that's a kind of cool song. And then you kind of get over it, you think, for a while. And then you're 33, and it's like your birthday, and you're listening, you're like, woo, this is heavy.
Yeah. No, the Beach Boys are really good, dude. So are the Bee Gees. Shout out to the Bee Gees.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar. Yeah, so we're reading Caesar's Gallic War. Now, part of this was that Spencer and I have talked a lot about doing research and like what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we, like we said, I think in the extremism episode, we talked about how we mainly are like a tertiary thing because we're mainly making humorous content. We're just fucking crushing it with the jokes lately. And we wanted to dabble more in like the primary source stuff. So like the actual text. And this one is just written by Caesar, which
So that's legit.
this is just bonkers. Like this dude 2,000 years ago wrote this down and it survived and now I get to read it.
What is it called? He literally named it the Gallic Wars?
Yeah, I think he called it the Commentarii de Bello Gallicum. So it's like his commentary on his Gallic conquest.
That's epic.
We'll talk about why he wrote it down as we go through too, because there's a lot of shit about like why did he even want to write it all down?
Of course.
Who did he write it for? So that's like the main source that we're going to stick with. Today, we're mainly just going to look at that. As we go through, we'll add in some other sources. And also, definitely, if you like Dan Carlin, listen to his fucking episode on the Celtic Holocaust. It's wild.
Yeah. I was mentioning some of the Celtic Holocaust to my family the other day at dinner, and they were like, "What? Like, is this real?" I'm like, "Oh, it's very real.
It's very real.
And it's something that we don't learn about."
No.
Yeah, people can only handle so much history, it turns out, which is why you guys got us now.
That's why you got Battle Buddies.
That's why you got us.
That's why you got us. Yeah, there's a couple things on the source that we should just kind of get out of the way. One is that I'm reading Hannah's grandpa's translation. So this thing is like 1967, translated by Joseph Pearl. I want us one day to read and talk about an essay or a book called Orientalism by Edward Said. I read it in grad school when I was taking some history classes, and the idea is that before like the 70s, before he wrote this groundbreaking work, he is saying we all fucked up. Like we weren't translating things anymore, and we were looking at things with like colonial eyes, essentially. And he was like the first guy to really say like you need to go back and like start looking at the translations again, because you make judgments when you translate, because nothing ever translates perfectly.
I believe that's called Deceptigence.
Whoa, really?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so he was one of the pioneers on that.
Okay,
And
yeah, it's a really big deal.
it's a huge deal. And right now, it's like an obvious big deal when we're like, yeah, of course. But back then, everyone's like, the fuck is this guy saying? Like, what does he think he's doing? And it took a while for it all to catch on. And now we're like, we read him, we're like, hey, he's cute. Like, he doesn't even understand what we know now. Like, he has all these flaws in his arguments. But at the time, it was like very radical.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. So that's the first thing, is that this one is an older translation. But why I like it is that from the gist of like the preface, the world just used to be different, and like education used to be different. And I'm not talking about Caesar's time. That's obvious.
Oh, God,
I'm talking about just like 100 years ago, because this book, when you read the preface, it basically makes the argument in my mind, as I was reading it, some of it is like, not explicit, but this is for the young academic before he has learned his formal Latin, because obviously the first book you read in your formal Latin, which you will obviously learn if you actually want to be educated in the world, is Caesar's Gallic campaign.
That's a thing, right?
It's a thing.
People like, oh, have you taken Latin yet?
Dead Poet Society, they all take their Latin every
Right.
day.
Bro, is that why that there was more exorcisms back in the day, because more people just knew Latin?
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? Like people are like, oh, look, he's speaking Latin. Like the devil, he doesn't know Latin. It's like, everybody knows Latin.
For how little Latin there is in the world, I really think that no one enjoyed their Latin classes.
Interesting. Because I
Hot
feel
take.
okay.
What are
I
you
mean,
saying? You're saying the other
well,
side of it.
I don't know. When we were doing the Spartans and
Yep.
the Thermopylae, and I was kind of diving into a lot of Greek mythology, and all the words that you learn come from just Greek myths.
Yes.
I can only imagine that the same goes with Latin.
Yeah.
I mean, when you take a Spanish, any of the Romance languages that you take in high
Yep.
school, so a lot of the times when you ask the teacher why this word is the way, and they go, it all has to do with Latin.
Yes. It's always just Latin roots or
So
Greek roots.
That makes me, I don't know. That's interesting.
It is cool. It's made me like Latin, and Latin's cool, and it's like you can read it pretty easily. Like most of the time, you can't read everything, but like if you know etymologies a little bit, you're like, oh, I know that root. That's a common root.
Totally.
Like I didn't actually translate any of this. I just assume it says commentary of the Gauls.
Right.
But it's that or something very close.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, before we really dive into this, is that, and Dan Carlin talked about this, which I'm glad he did, because I wouldn't have known, because I have no fucking idea what real historians talk about when they have their dinner conversations. But it's a contested thing about Celtic history and like where Celts came from and where Gauls
Totally.
came from. And we're not going to worry about that at all.
Cool.
Okay. Just wanted to.
I mean, just to give you kind of an example of like to parody off this,
Yes.
like the whole 23andMe thing when my brother got his Dunna back and they were like, "Oh, you're super German, which means you have Celtic background." And we're like, "Wait, pause. What?" Like people don't associate Celts with the Germans,
Right.
but they are.
Oh, the Germans play a big role in this.
Yeah, but most people, and I don't know, maybe in the United States, and maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous by saying most people, but we obviously all think of Irish people,
A little bit.
right?
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
Talking about France.
Oh, it's much larger than
Yeah.
yes.
Talking about Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's just get into the shit. Let's do it. So
Here we go.
the book is broken up into many books.
Like
And-
Dune.
I fucking love Dune. But he made a big boo-boo when he, in his first book, how it was broken up, book 1, book 2, book 3, and then came out with book 2, book 3 later. That was confusing for me for a while.
Oopsies.
Yeah, that's a whoopsie daisy. I like also in 30 Rock when Jack Donaghy's in trouble and his boss says, "You made a whoopsie daisy. Men don't make whoopsie daisies." And like that was like the plot point of the whole episode, and it was really fun.
Whoopsie daisies. Well, Julius Caesar made a whoopsie daisy. Did he name these separate books, or are they just books?
They're
like
just
book
books.
one?
Yeah, they're just 7 books. So the first 2 episodes that we'll do, we're gonna make this a longer series, and there's a lot of battles. So if you listen to Dan Carlin's, it won't be like then you don't need to listen to ours, because Dan Carlin's gonna take a totally different approach. He takes like this weird macro approach, which is awesome. But we're gonna focus on the battles because we're here at Battle Buddies,
Yay.
and there's a shit ton of battles. So it'll take us 2 episodes to get through book 1. And yeah, let's go into it. So today we're going to cover the Battle of the Helvetti, or as it is also called, the Battle of the Bibracte. Not sure about that one. So up top, who were the Gaul, and why should we care about Caesar having a decade-long war with them in 58 BC? So we're in 58 BC. My answer is that Caesar's really interesting in this time period. Young Caesar is crazy cool. I don't know cool, he's interesting. So Caesar, before becoming the dictator of Rome, who was then stabbed to death to birth the Roman Empire, was a politician and a general. More than that, Cicero, who is another Roman dude in this time period, he's kind of like the opposition, I think, to Caesar. It's hard to talk about anything that deals with Romans that I haven't specifically read, because people have spent their whole lives studying Romans, and it sucks to get it wrong because you get called out so fast. So apologies. I'm pretty sure Cicero, I know he was a politician in Caesar's time, and I'm pretty sure he was like opposition to Caesar. That could be wrong.
So kind of like a little. I'm trying to think of is there a comparison that you could use in like today's politics and politicians in the United States?
No, because I don't know exactly how it worked. I know that he wrote shit down, and that's why we know what he had to say about certain things. So that's all I got on that. But Cicero tells us that Caesar was deep in debt in this time period, and that is super interesting. Luckily, he was part of what they called the first triumvirate with these guys, Crassus and Pompey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Pompey is the guy that he ends up fighting in a civil war later on.
Pompey.
So here's some modern political connections here, because I knew you were going to ask for that. Got it right fucking here. They were like how AOC is in the Squad. Yeah.
Is that what they're called? The Squad?
I looked it up to make sure. Yeah, it's called the Squad.
Okay.
But it's a bunch of white dudes.
Wait, which one is AOC? Like Pompey and this other dude you were talking about?
So Crassus is the rich one. I think his title is richest man in Rome.
Trump.
Is Trump rich? No.
Let's call him Jeffrey Bezos.
There we go. Yeah, he's a Bezos.
Okay.
Oh, for sure, Bezos.
Okay.
And then we have Pompey. Don't know much about him, to be honest, because his stuff comes later on.
Okay.
And then we have just a real up-and-coming guy named Caesar.
Yeah, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but Caesar grew up poor and was in the military. Like he was legitimately like
I didn't do too much diving into it because I mainly focused on his book, but he was like part of like a noble family that were they weren't like refugees, but they were like taken into the Romans. And then his father died when he was like 16, so he was the head of the household really young. And his family wasn't they weren't really politicians, even though they were kind of nobles, but he became one. It is weird. I don't understand, because for us, there's a clear separation between politician in general of an army, but for them, it's like the same thing.
It's true. That's why that's important. That I was going to say, like, from what I understood from just watching shows and Dan Carlin, is that he was in the military pretty young, and in order to get any notoriety in this time frame, you did kind of have to like serve in the military.
Yeah,
like you had to be like a warrior.
That's what I have here. Because he's deep in debt. He doesn't say that in his book, obviously. But so if you believe that, which I think it is true, there's a lot of evidence for that, then the story goes that he went out to go conquer some folk to make a name for himself and to get some money.
There
because
you go.
Dan Carlin talks about it a lot. You need slaves, because slaves and hostages pacify the people, and you can sell the slaves, sometimes back to the people that you just beat.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, but there's a funny story we're going to say about that in a second.
I'm sure it's hilarious.
It is. I told my mom the story. I told Hannah the story. Neither of them laughed.
Okay,
so that's
where
where
a good start.
So the Gaul became those people for Caesar, or did they? What? Shocking. It's also possible that Gaul really was in trouble and really needed Caesar to save them. The only source we really have for this whole campaign is just Caesar saying it. And Caesar's point of view is he was asked to help.
Really?
Well, okay, because when you say that, you're like, fuck this guy.
They asked me.
They asked me to come. But when you read it, he's either telling a little bit of the truth, or he's the best fucking liar I've ever heard, because he makes his enemies sound really intelligent and smart.
Oh, okay.
And so he's either making his adversaries sound amazing for him to conquer them, or part of it's kind of true too. And I don't know which one to believe, but I have something on that. That mystery is what makes the story so much fun to explore. So as we go through the several battles of Caesar and the Gaul, I encourage you to think critically and with an open mind to decide for yourself what is fact and what is ancient storytelling.
Fun.
Yeah.
So it's all, see, you realize social media has always been around, folks.
Oh.
But then instead of TikTok, it used to just be books.
Yeah.
Long form books.
I really do think that the way that this is written so clearly, and like the repetition's enough, I think that he wrote it to be read aloud.
Oh, interesting.
It just, to me, like I've tried to read other ancient stuff and it's like really long-winded. Like, they're doing all these like, kiss this guy's butt. It goes on and on and on. And he's more just like, and I fucked up these guys. These guys asked for help. Like I was a saint to these guys. I was kind of messed up to these guys. And so he's much more just like, here's what happened and here's why I'm the best. Who were the Gaul? The Gaul were Celts, probably, that were north of Rome and west of Germany or the Rhine River. Not Germany like we know it. I'm not going to get into all that shit because that's a whole other Celt thing.
Hey, the Rhine River is in Germany today, right?
I'm not going to comment on it.
It is. It is.
So here's a little map. I'll post these on the Instagram when I release the videos too, but this is what we're kind of working with here. If you see in blue, that's the river.
I made sure to pull up a map on my laptop as well. But yes, I like it. Okay, so
it's just a big ass. It's just like France,
right south of Britain, folks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up a little bit of it. There's also the place, the Cisalpine Gaul. So that was conquered by Rome a few hundred years ago. So like that's part of Rome. So that's like the start of Rome, or the end of Rome, and the start of Celt land or Gaul.
Okay. Yeah, I typed into the internet. If you're listening to this, you can also type in the same thing. The Julius Caesar Roman Empire map. So right now I'm looking at Gallia, which is Gaul.
Gallia? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Gallia,
I'm sure that's the Latin way to say it, man. Maybe? I don't know.
Well, which part of Gaul? We'll go. Okay. So to learn a little bit more about who were the Gaul, I'm going to steal from Dan Carlin again. I promise the whole show won't be me just stealing from Dan Carlin. He's just so fucking good.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So Dan Carlin has a great story to highlight part of Gaul's culture that we think most of Gaul's culture doesn't survive. So like we don't get a lot of it. But a Gallic woman was captured and raped. Not great. After the soldier sold her back to the Gaul, she ordered her people to strike him down and cut off his head. She then brought it back to her husband, who was like, "What the fuck?
Nice.
You shouldn't do that."
Oh.
And she said, "It was important that only one man who has slept with me be allowed to live."
Damn.
I really like that. I've been thinking a lot about it. High stakes sex. Like, what if our wives are like, only one is allowed to be alive at any one time that we've slept with?
That's kind of dope.
I was like, yeah.
That's pretty metal.
Like, really make the person commit.
Do you think that they, after she brought the head home, that they made sweet, sweet love while staring at that head?
Yeah, like, I won. I'm it.
Do we know this woman's name?
No, I don't know anything about her.
She's
it's
a
just
badass.
an anecdote. I don't even know where he got that quote from. I just really enjoyed it.
Okay. And this is a Gaul person?
That was a Gaul, yeah.
So these are badasses?
Yes.
Okay. And
Well,
that's like a part of their culture to be like that, super intense and like barbaric.
They are wild.
Are they barbarians?
We
Are they
don't know.
Okay.
Even the term barbarian is like a big old issue.
Yeah. So from what I learned from a speech from the great courses when we were doing our deep dive into Thermopylae, he was saying that barbarians comes from it translates to someone who doesn't speak like us, and when they would overhear people talking, they would be like bar 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 bar, and that's where barbarians comes from.
When I think of barbarians in like this time period and every time period, I just think of people in the steppe because they are so fucking wild compared to everybody else in Euro-Asia. Like, they're just the different people the whole time until like very modern times.
It seems like nowadays we would use that more so as a term of endearment, like, oh, he's a barbarian.
Right.
You know, but it definitely was a disparaging term.
Yeah,
no?
absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm thinking too, I'm always thinking Guns, Germs, and Steel about this kind of stuff. Like when they talk about barbarians or uncivilized, where are they on the trajectory of like societal evolution based on what foods do they have available? Like, what have they been able to cultivate? What did they luck out on? Like, did they get to domesticate an animal? Like, that helps a lot. That kind of shit. And it's so big, and it's so many. There's so many tribes that I think it's unfair to call all of them any one thing. Like, they're very different. And so Caesar's general thing, I'll read a little bit about it. So Caesar basically says that Gaul is divided into 3 sections: the Belgae, the Aquitani, and the Celtae. And he'll kind of like talk about each of them. The Belgae, I believe he says, are the most brave. And those are like the deeper, darker forest. A lot of this is going to be like Heart of Darkness. Like the further he goes away from civilization, like the scarier and longer haired the people become. We'll start with a Celtic group. So the Helvetti, a Celtic group, they were convinced by their, in quotes, leader, Orgetrox, to leave everything behind to get new land in Italy, which is under Roman territory.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Just so before we move on, like, can you just say in a sentence, like a brief bottom line up front, why is Julius Caesar going after the Gaul?
No, I'm not going to say it.
No?
No.
Okay.
I know.
Why?
Because he doesn't say it, and it's more fun to find out.
Okay.
Because he started. This
okay.
is
part of the evolution of like all of this. You want this to go like this?
Yes.
Okay.
I had like notes. I scratched out a bunch of shit.
No,
like,
I believe you. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm supposed to feel the way that I feel right now.
I'm happy you're saying it. I was hoping it would come up naturally. We didn't script this, guys. This is good.
We're doing it live, folks.
Yeah, we'll get to why, because this is how it starts out, and you're starting out like, what the fuck are you even talking about? It's kind of hard to start the book.
Okay.
And then once you get going, he like backfills about like why he has to be
Okay,
there.
I'm just making sure that I am understanding.
Yeah, keep those
what's
coming,
going on.
because I will be probably skipping over a lot of shit that's important.
Totally.
Okay. My next sentence. We will come back to the why they are leaving this start of the next episode. So I will talk about why Caesar's there in just a minute, but I'm going to leave the main stuff about why the Helvetii are coming here until the start of next episode.
Helvetii are coming to Rome?
To the top of Italy. So it's technically Rome, but it's called the Cisalpine Gaul. So it's like, it is, the way that I understand it, and I could be wrong, is that there was like another Gallic territory called Cisalpine Gaul, and that the Romans took it over at like 200 BC. So they've had it for like 100 years.
So south?
Yeah, it should be like very north of Italy, right around like, if you go north a little bit more, you go to like Geneva, Lake Geneva. So below Lake Geneva.
Okay.
All right. What we need to know right now that he tried to, we're talking about Orgetrox right now, right? So what we need to know right now about him is that he tried to maybe unify Gaul. It's unclear, very unclear. He got caught, maybe. We're not sure about that either. It's kind of loose.
A lot of ambiguity here.
And then he maybe killed himself. This was it. We'll get into that part later, because it's really fucking confusing.
I hope there's no test after.
Yeah.
All the answers are maybe?
Maybe? The entire time I'm reading, I'm like, did this happen though? Like,
great.
Caesar learned that the Helvetii were trying to march through Roman territory near Lake Geneva. Caesar got some troops to carry his big dick. Sorry, I'm going to talk about Caesar's big... Caesar doesn't reference his dick, but it's easier to understand Caesar's writing if you just think he's writing all the time, I got a really big dick, and I'm like pretty proud of it. You should look at it.
Okay.
So Caesar got some troops to carry his big dick around. He destroyed the bridge near Lake Geneva and told the Helvetii to wait for almost a month before he would even tell them if they were allowed to cross the lake or not. Then,
a long time.
In that month, his army built a 16-foot rampart, a trench, and a bunch of other crazy shit like that to stop the Gaul from coming over it without his blessing. The Gaul tried things like they tried to ford the river at night. They tried to like sneak over on rafts because they left all their shit behind, and they burned their villages as they left so that they couldn't go back.
Oh my God.
And so they have all their families with them too. And they're starving. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. It's bonkers. None of it worked because there were 16-foot ramparts and trenches and a bunch of Roman legionaries just waiting to hit them with artillery whenever they wanted to. So they can't cross the river. So the Helvetii had to go through garlic.
Yum.
The Gallic territory of Sequani. Sequani is near a Roman border of Tolosades. None of that's important. That shit won't come back up in the story, I don't think. Therefore, Caesar had no choice but to leave Lieutenant Titus Labienus in charge of the fortress that he had built, and then take 5 legions to go meet the Helvetii. A legion is like 3,000 to 5,000 troops.
Oh, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So he's taking 5. So he's taking 20 to 25,000 men.
Lot.
It's a lot of guys.
And he's leaving this dude to man. What was the guy dude's name? This lieutenant, you say?
Yeah, Lieutenant Titus Labienus.
All right. So Titus is chilling back, and he's gonna stand his ground.
Yeah, he probably has like 1,000 guys or something. You don't need a lot for that.
Let's do it.
But he had to go. This is going to be a recurring theme. He had to go help.
You're talking about Caesar?
Caesar had to go help.
That's the narrative that he's pushing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where you should take the big grain of salt.
And I had no choice.
I had to. I blew up the bridge, and they were going to come into some other territory, so I had to go help them with 25,000 guys.
This seems like this is just wanting some land shit. This is the why that I'm getting so far, but go on. If you look at a map of Rome, it's like roughly spread over like the size of 2 Texases. So we'll say that is about 500 square miles.
And it's hard too because we know what happens later. We know later on that Rome becomes a legitimate empire, partly because of Caesar, or mostly because of Caesar, depending on your point of view. God, isn't it hard to talk about Roman shit though on a microphone when you know that for 2,000 years people have spent their entire lives from when they could stand to when they died studying Roman history?
Totally.
And you're like, shit, I'm outmatched here. I've only been thinking about it for a couple weeks.
Yeah, totally. That's why when I went so I'm no historian by any means. Talk to me after 5 years of doing this podcast, but when you say the Roman Empire became an empire because of Julius Caesar, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He was at least important for that, though.
There's a lot of people who were important for it.
Yeah.
What was Marcus Aurelius' son's name?
We look really good right now.
Okay.
Joaquin Phoenix.
It's a dope name, and I really want to know his son's name real quick. Aurelius' son, Commodus. He was a good. Well, I can't say good, but he helped shape what Rome became.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that for a second. So when we are talking about like the morality and stuff, just like with the Spartans, we're gonna grade it on the curve of the time. So like, I'm not getting mad at anybody for taking slaves in 58 BC.
Okay, well, canceled.
I know. It's a hot take, but
you're canceled.
The Gauls, okay, I should say I'm not grading either side on it because both sides are actively doing it the entire war.
Because you're canceled.
Is that wrong? No.
No, dude, you're fine. I'm joking.
I'm trying to think through it. But they both do it actively, and so like if you ignore it or try to judge one side for it, and then like you are ignoring the other side doing it too.
I'm trying to put my perspective in the mind of like what one of your 8th grade students would be, and they go home and they're like, Mom, Dad, my teacher thinks slavery is okay.
I would be so happy that someone listened enough to know like that I said the word slavery. Caesar then claimed that some Gallic people, the Aedui, asked him to come over and save them with his big old dick. He has to help them. He was literally asked. The Aedui definitely maybe came to him and said, like, can you help us?
Come on over.
So now he has
Can I get some sugar?
A reason to go over there.
All right.
We'll talk about it later. What we're kind of skirting around is this idea of like casus belli or whatever it is.
What do you mean?
Well, let me tell you about from my real source through all this is Civilization 6.
Nice. That's a good source.
Yeah. In Civilization 6, you can't just declare war. I mean, you can declare a surprise war, but you better be fucking ready because your diplomacy is going to tank from that.
Don't do that.
What you need is a reason that you manufacture to then justify your war.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You mean like burning down the Third Reich?
Yeah, or like someone like I've been playing as the Gaul a lot to learn other shit, and I've been playing against Germany a lot. Germany really likes to fucking capture city-states. And if I was giving money to that city-state, or I know they're about to capture a city-state, I'll just give that city-state some money or some people. So then when the Germans take it, I'm like, fuck you. Yeah. I was protecting those people. Now I have casus belli, or however you say it in Latin.
Does it say it in the game?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It means that you have a reason to go to war.
Oh.
And then you don't lose your diplomacy. So then the other people around you are like, wait, you're going to war? Yeah, but I was like, yeah, but he's taking a city-state that I'm interested in. They're like, okay, it's cool. And then they don't fight you. It's intense. Like, learn a lot.
I need to play that.
Although I think we're going to get into you and I Crusader Kings 3.
I'm so down.
Okay, I think I'm doing it.
Like, we can do this together, bro.
Yeah.
Since we don't play D&D ever.
One day. He has to help the Helvetii because the Aedui asked him. Or he has to help kill the Helvetii. So while the Helvetii were crossing the river Arar.
Bro, you need to just start saying things with like the most intense confidence.
Okay, let me read it.
Okay.
While the Helvetii were crossing the river Arar, which flows into the Rhone, Caesar went after the ones who had not yet crossed with 3 legions. 25% of the Helvetii forces were stuck and exposed, It also just happened to be a tribe that was responsible for an earlier Roman defeat and the death of Caesar's father-in-law, Lucius Piso.
That was better.
Thanks.
It's not how you pronounce it, though. I'm just joking.
That's so good. That was great. Okay, so that is where you get into a little bit of the like, come on, quit bullshitting us here, Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's saying they're crossing the river. Oh, it just happens that the one tribe that hasn't crossed the river yet is the only tribe that's like ever beaten a Roman army ever. And maybe also killed Caesar's father-in-law. So like talk about casus belli. He's like, I have to. I literally have to. He killed my father-in-law.
Tried to kill my dad, Rummy.
Now, the part that I didn't look up enough is it's kind of confusing when he talks about these old wars because one of them was from like 200 BC when they were capturing Cisalpine Gaul. So his father-in-law was not in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely says his father-in-law died from this tribe. So I don't know if there was just like skirmishes or what the fuck happened. Anyway, food for thought.
Okay, we have incentive.
Yeah,
I guess.
maybe. So using Caesar's...
Father-in-law? You would think you wouldn't give a fuck about that.
I love my father-in-law.
I know.
I would fucking kill for my father-in-law.
Okay, no, I totally...
I wouldn't. Okay, but that's because I don't believe in killing. But I would be mean.
I'm trying to make an in-law joke.
Sorry.
But yes, I love my in-laws as well.
I get it. In-law jokes, they're nice. Using Caesar's dick as a model, his troops built a bridge across the Arar in a single day. For context, it took the Helvetii 20 days, and they just lost their shit looking at Caesar's dick bridge. And that's not...
Is this a fat river?
So yeah, all the rivers are like, they're actually on maps. Like they're big enough to be on the maps.
Okay.
When I'm saying like they were in awe at it, I'm not lying. In Caesar's world, as he sees it, when he's writing it down, they are just like, holy shit, this guy's got a big dick. After this battle, in order to be able to pursue the rest of the Helvetian forces, Caesar had built a bridge over the Arar and led his armies across. Alarmed at his unexpected arrival, for they saw that he had accomplished the crossing of a river in a single day, a feat which they themselves had accomplished with the greatest difficulty in 20 days. They sent ambassadors to him. The leader of the embassy was Divico, who had been the commander of the Helvetii in the war with Cassius. He treated with Caesar as follows: if the Roman people would make peace with the Helvetii, they would go to and stay in that place where Caesar would decide and wish them to be. Basically, they're just in awe of Caesar.
What's the secret sauce here? Why was he able to cross the river so much more efficiently than the Helvetii?
One, it's not true.
Okay.
That's one possibility.
He's just being an asshole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it is true, because in this time period, we talked about it a little bit with the Spartans, but Spartans are still using the phalanx when we're talking about them because it's older. In this time period, Romans are legionaries, and they're really good at their job. And in ancient warfare, it's about how quickly can you build. More than anything. Maybe not more than anything, but just as much.
Shout out to the Seabees.
Yeah, so they are building... Dan Carlin says that a Roman legionary is 50% warrior, 50% construction worker.
That's dope. Yeah, it's a CB. That's dope.
And that's how I think about them when you read it, because we've already seen, we haven't even gotten to the big battle, and they've already built 2 different structures, right? They built a fortress to stop people from coming over, and then they built a bridge in a day. So like they clearly know how to do it. And when
do you think that they built the bridge the same way that the the Persians did, where they would get boats and then like smash them together and then put flat stuff on top of the boat so that you could just cross like a river? You know what I'm saying?
They would have, but they didn't use boats right now because they trekked them. They were following them for a few days.
Rivers. You don't really put a boat on a river back in this time.
Yeah, or they're not traveling down the river. You know, they're walking through that northern Italy territory.
Okay. Damn, just making a bridge.
Just made a bridge. But we'll see like way later when they're trying to capture like Vercingetorix and shit. Like they are building camps all over the fucking place. Whenever they stop, that's just what they do. And I don't know if it's like the slaves that do it or if it's just the legionaries. Like they got like their privates that are like, private, go out there and chop down some trees for me. And then they just go do it, but it's crazy. And they'll do it fast.
Dang.
Gives the treaty. They were like in awe of him, but they're like, the Gauls are brave. We know that they are brave. We know that the Celtics can fight because they have Romans to fight and they have Germans to fight. And again, I'm using Germans very loosely here. But the Germans are fucking scary.
Other Celtics.
Yeah, but they're not Celtics. Like, they make a point of that. They're
not Celtics.
They're Germanis. But maybe they are Celtics. I don't fucking know.
These are my ancestors.
Yeah, I know. Caesar calls them Germans. So I'm just going to call them Germans because that's what Caesar
that's
says.
Fair.
So he sees this troop, and it's all the people, and he's like, you killed my father-in-law. So he sends his entire cavalry, which is 4,000 men. Side note, because we're battle buddies, it's not his cavalry because they only do heavy infantry in Rome. It's the conscripted cavalry. So the Gauls that he just traveled through, the Cisalpine Gaul.
So this is a cavalry that he captured, and now he's telling them he's using them?
It's more like they're under the quote unquote protection of Rome. So like he just like the way that I imagine it is like as he sent his legions up through Rome into Cisalpine Gaul, like as he stopped into the villages being like, pay me my tribute and give me 100 soldiers on horseback, and then like kept going. That's how I see it. I don't know. It just makes more sense to me that way.
I like it.
Okay. So he sends his entire cavalry, which is 4,000 men, to see what direction the Helvetii were marching. He says that his side got too eager and met the Helvetii cavalry on bad ground. Caesar says that a few of his men died to the 500 cavalry that the Helvetii had.
It's a son of a bitch when you get a little too overzealous.
A little bit.
Like, I just want to get it going.
The Helvetii then became bold with the victory and didn't mind stopping, turning, and fighting as they were continuing for, I think I have this right, 15 days?
Okay. You're looking at me like I would know.
Does that sound, I guess, ancient times fucking sucked. Like
fighting for 15 days?
Yeah, like chasing somebody for 15 days.
But remember though, dude, I don't know, I think we talked about this in an Ad Ease episode when you were like, bro, this was a firefight for 4 hours or something like that. It's
right.
Like, doesn't necessarily mean like nonstop, right?
Well, and I think to him, so basically Caesar said that he wanted to keep them moving because he said he was going to protect, right? He said that to the Aedui, like, I'll help you guys out.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to keep like what he says like a 6-mile gap, essentially, between the two armies. So his cavalry and his troops and the Helvetii that he's pushing, essentially. But what he's saying is that the Helvetii are not fucking cowards, and they have no problem every once in a while just stopping, turning, and just attacking the Romans whenever they want, and then turning back around. And that's where I get into like this can't all be fake, because that sounds like some tactical shit. And it sounds like Caesar's fucking up a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is this like, do we know if this is like guerrilla warfare happening right now, or is it more like asymmetric, do you think?
I don't think it's totally symmetrical because of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers don't line up most of the time, but the numbers, we talked about this a shit ton with the Spartan shit. Numbers in ancient time period don't mean anything.
Yeah, totally.
And there are whole historians that do nothing but try to analyze the numbers of troops, and they usually end with the thesis, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, totally.
But what I do think that they follow the basic commands that we read in the Spartans, which is that you approach, which we understand that, and then you hit, but we don't know what that really means, right? We talked about that the Spartans. For the listeners who haven't watched our Spartan series, we don't know if the armies actually clashed, like actually ran and hit, or if they ran, got really close and stopped, and then kind of like attacked with little valleys between them. We don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think by this time they're pretty much hitting. But then the idea is that in the traditional warfare, so you approach, you hit, and then one side pushes. And like that's the basics. And I see that a lot in these battles. Like we're going to see that idea.
I'm assuming there's archery to be had.
There's archery.
You said there was artillery.
So most
catapults
of it,
and shit.
We'll get into it in just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait till it. But they're mainly heavy infantry. So they're mainly throwing their javelins
Damn.
before they use their swords.
Damn.
And it's pretty fucking intense.
Yeah, that is intense.
All right, so that makes Caesar look a little bad, right? Like he's kind of losing this chase. It's going on a long time. He's losing troops. But then a couple pages later, turns out there were traitors in that cavalry because remember, they were conscripted cavalry. So they were traitors. They were sympathizers for the Gallic
That's why
cause.
I was asking about that. It's like, how is this dude just going to grab some cavalry and be like, mine?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, like people when they're fighting need to feel like they have some type of like allegiance to the people you're fighting for.
Do you know how they do it? Because this is where why I'm not judging the slavery hostage shit, because it's through hostages.
Okay.
So like,
again, that's not going to work well in like to have good, like, what's the words I'm looking for, dude? I don't feel like that's good incentive to fight well. Or do you think it does?
His dialogue between him and like a German guy in the next episode, it kind of sounds like it does work. Because a lot of the treaties that they make when they sue for peace after a battle is like, give me my hostages back of this tribe so that you can't force them to fight for you anymore. Like, it was just like, that's the currency of the time.
Okay.
But it's weird. And I'm sure there's a lot of shit that you can dive into on that.
It's very abstract for me to think about.
It is.
But I like it.
Like the idea of like one of your two kids being just like in another country and it's just essentially suing you for peace. Like, you won't fuck this up because I'll kill one of your kids.
That's just odd to me that was just a normal way to do business. And I'm over here like, that can't work, right? And you're like, it works great.
It doesn't. It obviously has its issues because clearly they are sympathizers.
There you go.
But Dan Carlin's whole episode is called The Celtic Holocaust.
Correct.
And his starting question is, what would you lose for your ideals? And when he really digs into that 5 hours later, you're like, oh, you have to give up everything if you really believe in something.
Yeah. Like, do you really want to, like, when you think about freedom, is it really just a Mel Gibson movie?
Right.
Like, running across a fucking field? Oh, that's fun. Yeah, we fought for freedom. Like, what does that really mean to you?
Only you died.
Mm-hmm.
After a cute moment between Caesar and some brothers, it's cute. Him and these brothers, it's cute. The brothers kind of come up a little bit later. He learns the location of the Helvetti that he's been chasing. So they are 8 miles at the foot of a mountain. The cute thing is like, God, it's funny. I'll go to it. It's fun. One of the brothers, they're both like politicians and they like work for Caesar, and one has been a traitor, the secret traitor that's been like getting the cavalry to like flee and join the other Gauls, the Helvetti. But then the other one is like loves Caesar, and because everyone loves Caesar's dick, so he like is openly weeping and just like, Caesar, I love you so much, like don't kill my brother. And Caesar's just like, puts his dick very softly on the guy's shoulder and is just like, I love how loyal you are.
Is this a flaccid dick on his shoulder?
Yeah, it's flaccid.
It's like draping over.
I don't know if it can get hard because he's so cool and collected all the time.
God. Okay.
But he is cool and collected. His battles are gnarly. If even part of them are true. Because he's a young guy at this time. He has to do crazy shit.
How old are we? 22?
I don't know his age.
Okay.
I'm sure it's the equivalent of being 40. Like, it's time to do something with your life or it's over.
Yeah, so wait, what did you say? It's like we're in 58 BC right now? Okay, so he died in 44. So, yeah, he's older.
Yeah. But he hasn't made a name for himself, and he's deep in debt. And the only reason why he's, like, Dan Carlin says there's times where he's not even allowed back in Rome, because if he goes to Rome, he won't be allowed to leave because the debtors will lock him in. And, like, Cassius keeps having to, like, bail him out or something. There's a whole bunch of shit. But so the two brothers, then like the other one, if that's crying, and Caesar's like, don't worry, I'm not going to kill your brother because I love you so much. And then everyone starts openly weeping at how much they love Caesar. And this is real. This is like, they all just start weeping like, Caesar's the best. And Caesar's like, yeah, I know it. It's cute.
Interesting. Yeah, cute is definitely the word.
So I just found it interesting too that he has a traitor in his like cohort and he's not going to kill him. He like goes up and he's like, stop doing that shit.
Yeah, but that's just smart. Like that's
It
good.
is?
Yeah, that's smart.
And he
To-
wrote it down, and he's like, I want the people of Rome to know this.
of course.
So like it clearly had value even back then to be like, I am kind when I need to be kind,
Yeah.
when it's smart to be kind.
Yeah.
Which makes me think part of it's real, because I don't know. It's interesting. His number 2, Titus Labienus, right, his lieutenant, they learned that the Helvetii are 8 miles away at the foot of a mountain. So he orders his lieutenant to go climb the mountain with 2 legions. Caesar followed at 4th watch with all of his cavalry. Can you explain watches? Is it just like, is there like a set amount of time, or is it just like, it varies depending on what you guys are doing?
Yes, it varies.
Okay.
So like when you're in boot camp, you'll get woken up in the middle of the night and you get it for an hour, and then you go, but you're surrounded by like 90 dudes. So
Okay.
there's a lot to cover. But like once a month when I'm in the fleet, like when I'm out doing my thing and I'm living in a barracks room, like once a month, me and a sergeant are up all day, all night doing watch.
Okay.
Fire watch, we call it.
Yeah.
But it's like there's more than, you're not really looking for fires. You're like making sure everything is good to go and
Right.
safe. You're manning a post. And so, yeah, dude, that's honestly, that's the name of the game in the military, bro, is watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first thing that you learn when you go into the military is oh man, someone's screaming at me right now, but something orders, it's all about watch. It's
Okay.
all about post. General orders. Your general orders are all about like manning a post and the rules of watch.
Okay.
All right, that's it for that.
Thank you. So he was 4th watch, which I imagine is like the late night, early morning one.
Mm-hmm.
And at 4th watch, he takes all the cavalry and they go. And then this guy, Publius Sulla, who was like a big name, Caesar's going to name drop a lot of people. And Carlin kind of gave some context for it. He said it's either that the Romans would know that person and be like, yeah, that person did something. Or it's like Caesar trying to curry favor later.
It's like a novel.
It's like someone's son.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I put your son in the battle. He saved everyone today.
It's like a novelization of Us Weekly.
A little bit.
Okay.
National Enquirer.
The better, even better.
All right, so he went out with, he sent that guy out with the scouts. Caesar then positions himself around the mountain, but he doesn't commit to the fight. And he realizes that he's 2 days away from really needing supplies, because he's now pretty far into Gallic Celtic territory, and supplies are becoming an issue. And I forget what he calls it, but essentially like there's a day marked on everybody's calendar where he has to pass out grain, and he has to pass it out to all the legionaries. And I imagine if you skip that day, you don't get to be the general anymore.
Right.
And he's like, oh shit, that's 2 days away. And he has all the troops around the mountain secretly, like they did so good and they're ready to pounce and kill these Helvetii. And they're like,
we don't have food.
Fuck, we got to go get the food. And so they turn and leave.
Oh no.
Yeah, they just turn and leave. And it took them days to plan this thing out. Like they're staying up for multiple days, right? They're doing the 4th watch thing. Like they talk a lot about that. So they leave.
That sounds like really shitty planning.
I know, and he wrote it down. So the Helvetii see this, think Caesar was being a little bitch for not fighting, and then they go and chase him.
Nice. I like it.
Caesar retreated to the nearest hill, sent his cavalry out to scout, and then formed triple lines with 4 legions of veteran soldiers. The Helvetii were in a tight formation, beat off the cavalry, and started walking up the hill.
Ouch.
Okay.
Nobody likes going uphill.
Yeah, there's a lot of hills. Elevation's huge in these.
I bet.
So a little bit more on that. The supplies, that's kind of also with that trader, one of the brothers that was a trader. Like, he'll come up later, but that was also part of it. Like, why can't I secure grain? Like, all these villages in Cisalpine, like, owe me the tribute because I'm the Roman leader right here. Like, you should be giving me your grain. So he had to, like, figure out how to get the grain. Also, we'll talk more later as we get more in depth with learning how these battles work, but you're going to hear triple line all the time.
Triple line.
Triple line. So legions fight in triple lines. Basically means that Caesar has a reserve. We talked about in our Vietnam series a lot. I learned a ton about it's all about reserve when it comes to infantry fighting. Infantry fighting is won and lost by a general or commander's ability to utilize reserves correctly. the idea is that if you have, I forget how many people deep they are. I think it's like 8 people, like the ranks. Ranks are how deep you are.
Mm-hmm.
But you have 3 separate lines. Your third line is not doing anything. So they're hanging back super deep. And then wherever Caesar sees the issue, he sends that line to as the reinforcements.
Interesting.
That's pretty novel in this time period, right? Spartans weren't really doing that. The Persians were just kind of sending people in. So, that was, I think, hundreds of years before this, but it's still showing like the evolution of this warfare and why veteran legionaries are just fucking monsters on the battlefield.
Have you seen it be referred to as triplex Asius?
Yeah, I think that's the Latin version of it.
It was the triple. I'm looking up stuff here online, folks. There's like some cool YouTube videos about Roman military tactics, but it's saying it's a line employed by Roman legions. This formation was the key to Roman military success. It allowed legions to traverse rough terrain while maintaining cohesion and provided a system for reinforcement in battle that provided incredible staying power. So exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that struck back to the Spartans was that it is still about, in this time period, I mean, it makes sense because it's going to be all the way up until we get machine guns, but it's about your ability to march. And so these are career soldiers. So they know how to wheel. And wheeling is a thing. They don't call it wheeling yet, but it's
it's
fucking wheeling. Like,
because you're a seasoned historian.
I'm like, when he's talking, I'm like, oh shit, I get this right now. Like, I'm seeing it.
Dude, the coolest thing about doing all this funsy stuff is making connections.
Yeah.
It's so fucking fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so where was I? So they're coming up the hill. And remember, the Gauls are not weak, and Caesar's not portraying them as weak. Carlin talked about one historian that was saying, like, all of the battles were Romans just fucking stomping them because no one could stand up to these guys. But everybody else is like, we don't have evidence for that, and it's way more fun to think that they were brave because we do know that they beat the Romans a couple times, at least in the past. So we're going to say poo-poo on that until you have better evidence.
It's fun, man. Why am I right now I want the Romans to lose? Is it just because I like the underdog in fights?
It's because we like the underdog.
Okay.
Because the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, I want you to lose Caesar really badly.
Truly?
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
But
okay.
What I will say is he endears himself to me more than I thought. Like, his straightforward way of writing is...
You just like good writing.
He's not pretentious. Like, and, like, it's cool having a conversation with somebody who has been dead for thousands of years. Like,
That's true.
That really, like, opened my heart a little bit.
Dude,
like,
totally. That's a really cool little journey that you went on there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do I have okay, yeah, we'll get into this javelin stuff right now. So he has, like, the 4 legions, and they're all veterans. These are career soldiers. So the Helvetii were in the tight formation. They beat off the cavalry, but they're fucking Gaul cavalry.
They beat off the cavalry.
Yeah, there you go. And he said because they have shields, the Gauls, they don't have the heavy armor, which we talked about is like very guns, germs, and steel. Like, I don't think they had access to ore for enough years to develop the heavy armor that we see the Spartans and the Greeks and the Romans use. So they don't have that, but they do have big shields at this time. And they are like warriors, and so they know how to fight in a tight formation when they need to. Caesar then makes this part. This is why Caesar's cool. Because even if it's not true, but I think this is true because of the time period and what he has to do, he has to make a name for himself. It's like good propaganda. Like, it's like the Hunger Games. It's like, yeah, like, fuck yeah. So he makes all officers get off their horses at the start of, they're on this hill. They're getting approached by the Gauls. He's like, everyone fucking off your horse. We all share the danger of this battle.
Okay.
Yep. And Caesar's wearing like a big red cape.
Yeah.
Because you have to know it's fucking Caesar. But you can't see his dick from behind. So he has to have a red cape. Then they all throw javelins from their height advantage, and
they're throwing it downhill.
It fucking tears up the Gaul shields.
Totally, bro.
He describes it. It's really interesting. So basically, I didn't know the way javelins really worked. It seems really dumb, the idea. And then when you really, really think about that, they're going to stab each other. Like, it doesn't matter if it seems dumb, if it helps you stab the person faster. So they throw the javelins at the shields. They get stuck in the shields pretty deep.
Yeah.
And then the weight of the javelin itself bends down. And then
you're like prying open these like
these shields. They said the shields are just stupid. Like they can't They're like, fucking
Oh, it doesn't work.
I can't
It
lift
doesn't
it because they
work.
have this, and they're in phalanx because
Oh,
the
no,
phalanx is the name of the game in this time period for everybody that's not Roman, and even Romans are essentially using a version of phalanx.
Okay.
So they can't protect their buddies on their left because they're fucking can't get this thing out of your, like it's touching your balls, it's in your butt, and I'm trying to move it. So they drop their shields. And that is what the Romans kind of get known for, being able to do that. And it sounds really dumb that like that's like the marvel of technology, but that was their plan, and it works really well. So they tore up their shields. The Gauls had to drop their shields, which Gauls have been known to do that. They're like kind of like the Viking berserkers. Viking berserkers are going to come much later in history, I think, but Gauls will like rage before battle. Like the stories are that they just get naked and just like rah, and then they just go blitzkrieg stuff. So the Romans then push the Gauls, right? We talked about how you meet, they just met, and then somebody pushes the other one starts to retreat. So they push the Gaul, and then the Gaul then retreat to a hill about a mile away. They said about 15,000 Helvetii formed the rear guard, wheeled hella hard on
15,000 or 1,500?
No, 15,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then again, numbers.
I know.
They said that there's like 130,000 Helvetes or something like that right now.
Yeah, of course there are.
But some of them are women and children and shit too.
Great.
Yeah. It's confusing. So about 15,000 Helvetii, they formed the rear guard. They wheeled hella hard on the Roman right flank and then began to push back because the Gauls are not bitches. Like they're losing. They're getting pushed, right?
Without shields.
Yeah, they don't have their shields. And then they're like, this tribe is our rear guard. Have them go attack the Roman right flank, because the right flank is usually the one that's, I think, the weakest because of the phalanx, right? You always protect the person on your left. So if you can get to the right, then that'll do it usually. This is a quote. The Romans changed front and advanced in 2 divisions. The first and second lines to oppose those who had been defeated and driven back. The third to check the fresh assault. That doesn't sound very fun, does it?
Does Dan Carlin say that?
Oh, he's that, or I don't know about you, but I don't think I would like that. I'm fascinated by the extremes of the human condition.
Seemingly.
Seemingly. Oh my God, listeners, please just go listen to Dan Carlin's.
They don't want it. They want to listen to us.
Yeah,
dude.
listen to us.
They want to listen to us talk about Dan Carlin rather than listen to Dan Carlin.
We'll talk to Hannah on the next Eddie's about it, because she, bless her heart,
oh dude,
lets me listen to it.
I don't even have the balls to have my wife be in the same room as me while I'm listening to Dan Carlin. She'd be like, "What the fuck is this?"
We listened to Freakonomics on the way up to Reading, and on the way back, I was like, "Oh no, we're out of Freakonomics. I'm just gonna turn on something," and then we listened to the Celtic Holocaust for 2.5 hours.
See, but it's cool though, because I just had a conversation with your wife, and she just said, like, I don't really listen to shit.
Yeah.
So you get that luxury.
I do. I do. Yeah. That's true. Okay. So to kind of recap what they were just saying, the Romans changed front and advanced. Basically, they had, because they fight in 3 lines, they had a reserve ready to go. And then that's what they think saved the day, right? So they checked that fresh assault. This fighting went on for 7 hours. Neither side ran. Caesar talks about that. He's like, neither sides are bitches. Everyone's being brave right now. Which is, again, great propaganda, or it's real. It turned into 2 fronts, right? So like, because they have this like rear guard that went and attacked the flank, and that's where the reserve troops are going. So like that's fighting. And then there's still the main push-pull that's going on of the Romans pushing the Helvetii up the hill. So basically,
that sounds horrible.
That right flank gets pushed, and so you have like 2 totally separate fights going on. The rear guard one is by far the most interesting one, so we'll talk about that. So there's the Gauls on the hill fighting off the Romans. Then the 15,000 rear guards, they turn all their wagons into a fortress, and then they just start fucking chucking their javelins and darts. And they said, like, Caesar says like, they'll go on the ground and blow darts at the Romans' feet and shit.
Truly?
Yeah, I don't know if it's real, but like, yeah, that sounds fucking awesome.
Some poison darts from Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I could see him like throwing rocks, like your feet don't have a bunch of metal on them. Like, get those toes.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Your ankles
Yeah,
getting
like,
smacked
that
by
would mess with you,
rocks.
like,
Oh,
damn
that
it.
sounds horrible.
So, unfortunately for the Gaul, the Romans did eventually take the wagon. They captured some people because you got to have your hostages and your slaves. Also, this house Caesar's going to make money, right? His slaves. And then 130 Helvetians marched away. It took Caesar 3 days before he could continue his march because he had to do a bunch of shit. So I'm going to go over that last part in a second because I'm sure you have questions.
Did you
on
get
that.
grain yet? We have grain? Oh, yeah, because they had to leave. My bad.
Helvetii sued for peace because of their fear of Caesar's big dick. 6,000 Helvetii troops tried to run away to the German frontier. They caught them, I guess. It's kind of unclear what happens to those guys. And then he sent most of the Helvetii to their old homes, which were burned. He left some of the rear guard, the Boi, to settle in Idui to increase their defenses. This part's why Caesar is kind of like a badass in my mind a little bit, because he knows how to win. Like, you don't just win, you gotta like really win. So he went and hunted down all of the people that were trying to run away. And then the best fighters, the ones that were in the wagons that were refusing to give up, the ones that were throwing javelins and darts and shit at the people's ankles, he's like, you guys are pretty good at fighting. What if you guys just stay here? Or actually in the Idui. So the Idui is the people that came and asked for help. So he's like, what if you guys live with the Idui and protect them so that they don't get hit by things anymore? And they're like, that sounds good because we burned down our homes. So we got no other place to go.
Yeah. I got no place else to go.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, then he gets his grain. So his troops don't revolt against him.
It's a good move. Yeah.
Big move.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Julius. I see you, Julius. Orange Julius. Rest in peace to Orange Julius next to Dairy Queen. What are we calling that? The Battle of what now?
So I was calling it the Battle of the Helvetii, but there is a name for it, I guess, because Caesar doesn't use the name. It was named later. It's called the Battle of Bibracte, I think. I don't know. We'll probably call it the Battle with the Helvetii.
And so some folks had to basically go seek asylum in Germany, is what you're saying?
They tried. I don't think you're getting this. That part does not fucking make sense. We'll talk about that because next episode is called German Boss Fight. And I don't think that they should go there. If you were trying to run away, I would run the other direction.
Hey, that's foolish. Yeah. So as of right now, I'm still supposed to be in the dark as to why Julius Caesar is like making his. I feel like he's just trying to make a name for himself, and he's trying to get land, essentially.
That's what I felt. But remember, the Idui asked him to keep going.
According to him.
Yeah.
All right. Julius Caesar has a big dick.
He does.
Or at least he's got big dick energy. There's a difference.
Is there a difference? I
promise there's a difference.
I was thinking about this because I was like, man, that's a lot of dick jokes for me. I usually do 0 dick jokes.
Dude, it was heavy on the dicks.
But I was like, I want to try doing a little penis humor. And I was thinking like, he may not actually have a big dick, but I think from my jokes, he at least knows how to use what dick he does have. He's very competent in it.
Yeah. Big BDE.
And that's more important, right?
Ask a woman.
True. I want to start writing some improv songs.
Okay.
So, do you know, I'm probably going to get your name wrong, Pat Patterson?
Do I know him?
Her?
No.
Yeah, the famous music teacher of Berklee School of Music. She taught like...
Am I supposed to?
I don't know. I don't know what you know about music and stuff.
Okay.
But she taught like... I think she taught like John Mayer. I think she taught like the Dixie Chicks.
Okay.
Like songwriting shit. But she has like these cool methods for like writing songs. So I read her book. Her book is really good. And you would love it just because she goes over lyrics of like famous songs and why they're good and why they're bad.
Interesting.
And then she like makes a rule and she's like, this rule is ironclad. Here's 8 examples of why this rule isn't true. Like,
okay.
Like, you know, she'll like say like, you have to end, like every rhyme should be the word that's the theme of whatever you're singing about. Except for this Johnny Cash song for some reason, which is so good and doesn't follow that rule at all. So like, she's really good about like, I have this rule. It's so good. Also, don't fucking listen to me because I'm just a human and like people are weird with music. So I had some words that we're going to start rhyming.
Okay.
and I just wanted to get us started here. So
Let's do it.
I got Battle, Caesar, Gaul, Celtic, Rome, Triumvirate. That one's really ambitious. Really ambitious one day.
What does it mean?
Triumvirate that's what Caesar was a part of. Isn't Triumvirate also that like metal band that was really popular for a little bit?
You're thinking of Trivium.
I didn't listen to him anyway. Triumvirate, so he was part of that. That's like the three-headed thing that he was a part of.
Okay.
And Empire and Casus Belli. I grabbed just 2 words. So I grabbed Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
I got freezer, ease her, please her, Caesar, seize her, tease her, a teaser, and Weezer.
So
the her is Rome. I wrote that in parentheses.
This is word association, essentially?
So yeah, you choose a word that's like the important word. Like I want us to write a song about the Gaul and Caesar. Yep. So I choose a word that means that. So then I want that word to be at the end of my line, of my lyric. So Caesar is going to be the end of one of our lines for our song.
Okay.
Then we want to find a word that rhymes with it that fits our theme. So those are some words that rhyme.
Okay.
If her is the Rome, please her kind of works. Like Caesar wants to please her.
I like it.
Yeah.
With the big dick energy.
He's got big dick
Caesar
energy.
Wants to please her.
Then we have Gaul, because that'll be like one line, right? So that'll be like a couplet. Then we have another couplet, which is one word's going to be Gaul.
Yeah.
Then we have, for possibilities that I've found, all. There's a lot of words that rhyme with Gaul, it turns out. Brawl.
Tall.
Call. Drawl.
Okay.
Fall. Haul. Maul. Sprawl, if we want to be like Arcade Fire before they got in all that drama.
It's going to be like...
Squall. Stall. Tall, you said that one.
Yeah.
Thrall and wall.
Uh-huh.
The ones that I underlined as like meeting our theme, brawl, obviously.
Yeah.
Gaul's in a brawl. Fall. Gaul's gonna fall, guys.
Yes.
Maul. Sprawl. And thrall.
Go ahead and fight for the Gaul. We'll give you a call. Sign up for the battle. Don't forget to bring your saddle.
All right. So here you can hold that. We're doing Celtic, so let's look up what should we find? Let's do like a little chord progression.
Oh, you're putting on music right now?
No, I'm gonna make music.
Oh, okay. I just get a guitar.
Put on music. Ooh, that's weird. Little Aeolian. Let's see. Not gonna make that work. I don't know if I like that A at the end. I don't know if I like that. Let me make it my own.
There's a battle. Don't forget your saddle. Caesar wants to please her. Don't forget to squeeze her. In the triumvirate, don't even masturbate. It's the Gaul. Give us a call. Talking about the Celtics. We're trying to Beltic. I don't know.
That was good. All right. I love it.
I was able to kind of come back with a better masturbate joke.
That was good.
Totally redeemed myself. Actually, I feel better about that than I was anticipating.
I know, right? It's kind of fun.
Kevin's a good guitar player, dude. I could listen to you play guitar forever.
Thanks, man.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys.
If you get the chance and you think this was silly, send it to somebody else that you think would enjoy it. Perhaps rate it on your streaming service wherever you streamed it. We're going to be chilling in the Roman Empire for a while, which I'm pretty excited about.
I am too.
As you guys got to see with our cool improv music. Triumvirate rhymes with masturbate, sort of. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bonsai.
Bonsai.